In spiritual groups, sometimes they're closed because they just kind of want to savor the best and the highest talks for themselves. But often it's not that way at all. They tend to be very open and invite people in who have never had a spiritual family or a spiritual community previously. And there's a kind of a nurturing process that can go on. And when it comes to spirituality, for the most people, or for the most part, people are able to share beliefs that are a little bit different, maybe from the person next to them, without offending anyone, without taking offense because someone said, well, you know, in 1,000 lifetimes, I don't think I'd have ever thought of that. And that, by the way, was a standard response that I used to give people. Sometimes, it's not so much so now, but 30 years ago, people were really in a different place when they were looking for a spiritual teacher. Part of what I did, like every spiritual teacher does, is to kind of aggrandize the ego a little bit, because that gets people interested. And once they're interested, we can go deeper. If they're not interested, nothing happens. But sometimes people would come in and they would tell me, this is the way it is, God looks like this. And I had one fellow tell me he was living, he was manifesting a life on each of the 9 planets simultaneously, and he had quite a story about what was going on each one of them. And I would usually just say, well, I see. But other people would say something to me like, well, here's the way it is. You're saying this, you're representing that, and you're not taking into account something I know, and this is the way it is for me. I've had a lot of lifetimes, and I know. And they'd spin quite a tale. I would listen very patiently and very respectfully, because when that happens, the person always needs to hear themselves talk. He or she needs to hear what he or she is saying. So I listen, and I listen respectfully, and sometimes some were a little, what you might call, whacked out, I guess. They were not very, wouldn't be relatable to other people, perhaps. And I would always say to them, in thousands of lifetimes, I don't think I would ever have come up with that understanding of reality. I didn't minimize it, I didn't diminish it, I just say, thank you for sharing it with me, because it's something I've never thought of. And then we would move from there, because usually that kind of a response opens something. And perhaps there was a little more receptivity, because if I hadn't thought of it, maybe they should at least see what I had thought of.